Hello friends, this video on management of natural resources part 3 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So now let us look at the management of each of the natural resources separately. So let us start with forests and wildlife management. As I said, forests and wildlife are very important natural resource these days. Not only these days, since very beginning, forests have been a very useful natural resource. How? Because forest is a biodiversity spot. What do I mean by biodiversity? Biodiversity means you have, what does the term diversity means? Diversity means you have different kinds of people. These days you would have often heard that unity in diversity, or diversity is a very common term these days. Diversity means different types of people belonging to different culture, different places, with different thoughts, so different people living together. So when you think of a forest, in forest you have so many different kinds of living organisms. You have different kinds of animals, you have different kinds of insects, you have different kinds of birds, different kinds of plants, right? So many different kinds of living organisms in the same area. So that is why it is known as a biodiversity spot. You have so many variety of living organisms in one area. So that is why forest is a very precious natural resource, because you have so many different types of living organisms in one area. Loss of diversity may lead to loss of ecological stability. Now what will happen? Why do we need to manage forests and wildlife? Managing forests and wildlife means that protecting the forests and wildlife. Protecting the forests from being cut down to an unlimited extent. Again, protecting the wildlife from being killed so that they become to an extent that they become extinct. Because there have been many such animals which have become extinct or which are on the verge of extinction. Right? That is only because of too much of killing of those animals. Similarly, too much of cutting down of trees will bring an end to the existence of forests. So we have to prevent that, and that is what is known as forests and wildlife management. Now what will happen if forests and wildlife are not managed? Biodiversity will be lost, right? And loss of biodiversity will lead to loss of ecological stability. So what do we mean by ecological stability? Ecological stability means that in this entire world, every living organism is dependent on one another. Right? For example, you have certain kinds of people who survives by eating plants or plant products, right? Whom we normally call as herbivores, or we in human terms we call them as vegetarian. So people who are dependent on plants. Again, there will be certain kind of animals which are dependent on another animals. For example, snakes. Snakes will eat lizards. Similarly, cats, they will feed on mouse. Similarly, dogs will feed on cats. So if you think it this way, cat is dependent on the mouse, the population of the mouse. So now if all mice are extinct, what will happen? Cats will not have something to feed upon. Similarly, if all cats become extinct, dogs will not have anything to feed upon. So that means every living organism is dependent on other living organisms. So if there is a loss of diversity, that means if some of the species are getting extinct, it will cause an instability in the entire ecology, because everybody else will also get impacted, right? So this will cause a disbalance in the ecology. So that is why we should save forests as well as wildlife in order to maintain the ecological stability. Let us now talk about the stakeholders for the forests. So what do I mean by stakeholders for forests? Stakeholders are nothing but the people who are related to forests. Related in the sense, there are some people who are benefited from the forests. People who are benefited from the forests, or people who wants to benefit the forests. So such people are categorized under stakeholders of forests. So let us look at who are these stakeholders. People living in or near forests. So there will be some tribe. You would have seen that generally forests are huge, vast spaces, right? So there you will have some tribal people living inside the forests or living nearby forests. So such people are the first category. Forest department of the government. So the forest officers and related people, they are also related to forests. The industrialists, how are the industrialists related to forest? We will see that. And the nature enthusiasts. Nature enthusiasts are those who love nature and they want to protect nature. So these are some of the stakeholders of forests. Now we will see how each of them are dependent on forests and how each of them help the forests or destroy the forest. So we will talk about each of them in detail one by one. So let us start with the people living in or near forests. So what are the advantages or what are the facilities that these people get from forests, and how do these people contribute to forests? So these people get many advantages from forests. For example, they get bamboo for huts. They construct their huts with the help of the bamboo trees, and bamboo trees are nothing but present in the forests, right? Baskets to collect and store food materials. I mean, normally these tribal people, they stay far away from normal city life and all, right? So they get most of their needs from the forests, whether it is construction of their house or whether making baskets to collect food materials. Even they get their food materials from forests. They get fruits, vegetables, nuts and medicines from forests. There are so many medicinal plants, right? So which acts as medicines for so many different diseases. So they get all these things from forests. Fishing, people go for fishing and they get fish which many of them consume. Hunting, people go for hunting. So but these, at the same time, this hunting, fishing, all these things are actually killing living organisms. So when these things start happening to an unlimited extent, I mean, if this happens within a limit, then the ecological stability is maintained. But if it starts happening beyond the limit, that means if people start cutting trees for their self-interest, if they start cutting too much of trees, so that will again cause a problem. If they start hunting too many animals, that will again cause extinction of that animal, right? So everything within a limit is fine. So these are some of the things how these people get benefited from the forests. But at the same time, these people can harm forests if they extract too many things from forests. Next is the forest department of the government. So what do these departments do? Vast areas of forests are converted into monocultures of pine, teak, eucalyptus. So what happened? That means, let us suppose, I mean, sometimes what does the government do? They think that some of the, I mean, they have converted vast area. I mean, generally wherever you have forests, you have different types of plants, different types of trees and different types of animals and living organisms. Now, sometimes the government says that let us convert this forest into vast areas of monoculture of pine, teak, eucalyptus. That means you will only have pine trees or you will only have eucalyptus trees. So what are the disadvantages in that case? The biodiversity is destroyed because there's so many different variety of plants and animals which was present before, they all get destroyed. So now you have only one variety of plant over that vast stretch of land. Now, why does the government do so? The government thinks that, okay, eucalyptus is something which is useful, which helps in making the eucalyptus oil that is used for medicinal purpose. So let us grow more and more of eucalyptus. So that is true in one sense, but when you convert too much of forests into this monocultures, that causes a harm because the biodiversity is destroyed. As a result, needs of local people is ignored. As I mentioned in the previous slide, the local people, the people who are residing in or around forests, their needs cannot be fulfilled because if you have monoculture of eucalyptus, they will not get different kinds of fruits, vegetables for their survival, right? So their needs are ignored. But it is a good source of revenue for forest department. But when you have this monocultures, it becomes a good source of revenue for the forest department. So the advantages that the forest department get out of forest is that it's a good source of revenue, right? But at the same time, the forest department should also take care of the fact that the forests are not completely destroyed so that the biodiversity is maintained. The needs of the local people are also fulfilled. They should also inculcate monocultures of eucalyptus, pine or teak, but they should do that to a certain limit. They should not destroy the entire forest and convert it into a monoculture, right? So only a portion of it can be utilized for the same. It is useful for industries, obviously, because from forests you get so many raw materials that helps in industries. So now let us look at the industrialists. Forest is a source of raw material for factories, because for factories you would need so many things as fuel. For example, you might need wood, you might need some other resources which are present in the forest. So the forests are a very good source of raw material for industries. As I mentioned, for example, if you need eucalyptus for preparing the eucalyptus oil, so if you have a factory that prepares that eucalyptus oil, so for them the raw material is the eucalyptus leaves. So they will go to the forest and extract the eucalyptus trees from there. Not interested in sustainability of forest in one particular area. But what is the mindset of the industrialists? The mindset of the industrialists is to make money from their factories. They just want to expand their industries. They want to expand their factories. So they are not much bothered about the sustainability of the forest. For example, let us suppose there are different forest is not located in one area, right? So there are different forests located in different area. So now let us suppose that there is a factory which is coming up in some area X. So the industrialists will try to get all raw materials from the forest which is located near X. That means in the X locality, all the forests are completely utilized, and the industrialists are not at all bothered that the forests in that locality X will be completely destroyed, is getting completely destroyed. They do not want to sustain, they are not interested in sustaining the forest of that particular area X. Once the entire once the entire area of X is deprived of forest, what will that industrialist do? He will start getting raw materials from some forest in some other area, say Y. Again, once that is destroyed completely, he will go to some other area, Z. Right? So that means the industrialists are not bothered about sustaining the forests in a particular area. They just want raw materials for their factories, and they are just extracting things from forests, which is not right. Right? So these industrialists should also put a check to extracting raw material for factories. They should ensure that the forest should not be completely destroyed. They should think about the sustainability of the forests. Nature enthusiasts. These are a group of wonderful people who are not dependent on forests. They do not get anything, anyways, everybody gets useful things from forests indirectly or directly. But these nature enthusiasts are not directly dependent on forests, but they have a role in management of forests. These are the people who love nature and they want to save nature. They want to protect the environment, and that is why they want to protect the forests as well. They raise their voices against cutting down of too many trees. They encourage people to plant more and more trees. They protect wildlife. So these are a different group of people who are doing their best in order to save nature. Thank you. Please visit examfear.com to watch free educational videos, try free online tests, get the best quality study materials, study from the best tutors and mentors, and much more. Thank you once again.